Okay, so we're looking for the Marsh Cave. Not that the king told us where to find the Marsh Cave in relation to his ruined castle. And I suppose it's just an assumption on my part that the king in that ruined castle is related to the prince we found at the less ruined castle that's been put into a magical coma. Okay, clearly the Marsh Cave is not to the north of the castle then. Good to know. But considering the sheer amount of fights we've been getting into, it'd be better to know where we're supposed to go just to save some time. I suppose being confused where we're supposed to go is a good way to cut down on the explicit grinding we might need to do, but still, I am just a spoiled bastard who's used to having maps since I got started on the role-player genre in general around the point of the PlayStation 1 era. And while this particular release of this game was released for the PSP, it still got some holdovers from the Super Nintendo release. Holdovers that we could kinda do without. I'm probably not being especially efficient with the way I'm having the physical attackers hit these guys, but hey, at least the magic users are actually using magic instead of just throwing basic attacks. So I'm putting some thought into some of the random fights at the moment instead of just holding a single button down and letting things go as they please. And just as I say that, we run into a random fight that I have no temptation to deal with tactically in any way. Bloody typical. Anyone else find it funny that the person with the hammer is the weakest member of the team? I'm just way too used to hammer users in games being especially strong powerhouses, since typically it's a strength-focused weapon. I think this game might be the only exception to that, but then maybe that's because I haven't really looked into all that many role-player games just yet. JRPGs in particular do a lot of very strange things. Yeah, was feeling a bit annoyed seeing how low Tyson's health is, especially since his defense is pretty crap. Hell, he's more squishy than the mages in several ways. Again, monks just work with completely different rules in Final Fantasy I compared to every other appearance of that class of character in the franchise. In this game, apparently wearing clothes of any kind just makes you less dodgy. And it's a good thing that the sprites don't reflect what clothes our heroes are or are not wearing for defensive purposes. Why is it always so random what order our team strikes at the enemy? How are we supposed to calculate who strikes what if we don't know what order everyone is going to make a move in? That's probably why everything outside of the initial release of the game made sure that if an enemy was taken down, that the rest of the team would pick their own targets among the survivors instead of just striking at empty air. Nice to know that we're strong enough to casually take down an ogre in a single turn. It'd be nicer to know where we are and how far we are from an important place like the Elf Village or the Marsh Cave. The guide I have open at the moment doesn't really have any detailed world maps for me to work with. It just tells you general crap like move west and you'll find the Marsh Cave eventually, or move east and you will go back to the Elf Village. Probably my fault for not continuing to scour the internet for an actual world map, when my biggest issue right now is a lack of a map in the game itself. I suppose it's just something to keep in mind for when I do the Final Fantasy IV Let's Play. When I do 3, 5, 6, and potentially 2, I'm going to be doing the Pixel Remaster, so we'll have an in-game map to rely on for them. And the games after that in the series I'm planning on doing, 7, 8, potentially, 9, 10, and 12, are all in the PlayStation 1 and 2 era, so they've got some maps for the overworld at the very least. I really don't want to deal with 13, since the only character worth a damn for me there is Lightning, and everyone else there either makes me yawn in apathy or groan in frustration every time they speak. I've tried 15 and 16, could not get into them for differing reasons. 15, I liked the characters themselves, but the story and how they were put into it didn't really make sense to me. Why does a prince and his 3 bodyguards feel more like a Korean boy band? Why does saving the world in that instance feel more like a vacation simulator for a massive chunk of it? 16, the main guy in Final Fantasy 16 reminded me of the main guy from the original Drakengard, and my mental comparisons with Drakengard just ended up making the world feel bleaker than the Final Fantasy team probably meant it to be. So I wound up not finishing it due to just wondering why I should bother trying to save the world when it was so bleak. I'm pretty sure I'm being completely unfair to both of those games, but hey, if I'm not feeling grabbed, then I'm not feeling grabbed. I've certainly still got a good number of other Final Fantasies to go through. Not quite the entire franchise or something like that, but I'm still very much a fan, and some of the spin-offs I'm definitely gonna do later on. And there are more role players out there than Final Fantasy and its spin-offs, some of which are well-known and still running. Some reasonably well-known but stopped getting entries, some are just plain obscure, and some are absolute classic one-shots. There's just a lot to choose from, and there's only so much time in a given week I can record and comment on these various games. Hell, I've probably got too many active LPs going on right now on my channel. There's only so much I can do at a time. Probably shouldn't have bothered sending that bit of fire, since that ogre was gonna go down that turn anyway. Why do I keep forgetting that the elf village in this game is called Elfheim? It's not exactly a complicated name to remember. It's literally the word elf with the suffix heim put into it. Literally German for home. But no, I keep remembering it as just the elf village. But for some reason, I remember the names of Cornelia and Pravoka for a good long while after. Cornelia, because the name is at least pronounced the same as the first planet you fly through in Star Fox 64. The spelling might be a little different, but I'm not about to bother checking. Pravoka, I'm honestly surprised by, because I was expecting to forget the name of that town the instant we were done with the place. Nope. It's sticking with me for some reason, not entirely sure why or when that's going to stop. Okay, let's get the magic spell that cures poison. Okay, why am I not allowed to get this spell just yet? Do I need to keep leveling up before I'm allowed to... that just feels annoying for the sake of being annoying. Oh, I suppose it's possible I'm being overly harsh or something. In the original release of the game, with the way that magical charges worked, you would know that your character isn't ready to gain a level 4 spell because you didn't have any level 4 spell charges. The MP system in the PSP release of the game doesn't really do that sort of thing. You need to go into your status screen to know what level of spells you're allowed to use. So while you have more shots for the more basic spells as the game goes on than you would have in the original release or the Pixel Remaster, They still wanted to keep a limit on when you gain the more powerful spell so as not to mess with the progression somehow. Pretty annoying. I think that being able to afford to buy the spells should be enough of a limit for if you can get them. But there's not really much point in complaining about the rules. We just have to work with them. And it's not like the rules are brokenly bad or something. It's just a bit of an inconvenience. I forget, did we already get level 3 spells for our black and white mages? I think this might be the only town in the game that has 2 separate black mage and white mage stores. Pretty confusing, really. Well, apparently we didn't grab any of the level 3 spells last time we were in town, and we just don't have enough money to afford it all just yet. I suppose, that's something else to grind up for. We'll get the 2 healing spells for now and the anti-undead spell later on. I should probably restock on an antidote or 2, considering we have enemies able to poison us, and we aren't allowed to use magic to remove poisoning just yet. Where the hell was the item store around here again? There we are. Apparently only getting 1. Probably because I'm planning on doing a good amount of grinding for a bit. Not gonna be veering away from town all that much. Which of course means there's going to be some fast forwarding in our future. Ah well, progress is being made, even if I'm not really moving forward for a little bit here. Huh. Kinda surprised that Boromir didn't manage to one-shot that warg there. I really wish that the wargs were noticeably larger than the other wolves around here, and that the werewolves were more humanoid instead of just being a different color than the other wolf types. I suppose I should just be glad that there's some measure of enemy variety, instead of complaining that visually speaking they all look the same and have many of the same functions. But still, why are we still running into groups of nothing but standard yellow wolves? That was acceptable between Cornelia and the Chaos Shrine, but we have gone to a completely different continent right now after fighting to earn the right to sail, and the enemies in the ocean were certainly pretty respectable. Maybe it's just the game designers not having a great idea of how to progress the difficulty of the enemies, since again, the base game helped set up the foundation that a hell of a lot of other role-player games built off of. And I can't really blame the people who did this particular version of the game for some of the odd decisions they made as they added things to the experience. This game was an absolutely massive hit back when it was first released. Very innovative, and in many ways it's still worth playing, even though with many of the far more advanced games in the same genre already out there in the market. It's kind of hard to say what might end up breaking part of the experience, really. Still, I just feel like I would have liked to keep the art style and the MP system from the PSP release, and get the in-game maps from the Pixel Remaster, instead of having to choose between the 2 versions. Sorry, didn't mean to enter the town again just yet. Part of the problem with doing grinding. Sometimes I pull out a book to read while working on that part of the game, since things are kinda that mindless. I'm less likely to do that sort of thing if I'm playing casually instead of recording for a Let's Play. Grinding can be a nice way to relax after a long day of actually working, hence why I don't have all that many issues playing a grindy game casually. But as I figured out when trying, then losing interest in doing a Let's Play of Digimon World 2, I have different feelings about this sort of thing when working on commentary than when I'm just going through the game for the sake of going through the game. Well, at least entering the town this time was on purpose. Guess this is going to be a relatively short clip. Still, we learned that our next major location is going to be the Marsh Cave, and for some reason we're going to have to go to a ruined castle after dealing with that dungeon. We may not have much of a plot in this game, but we're still zipping through things a good deal faster than I would in a Pokemon game. Probably because I don't need to level up each and every individual member of the team. All 4 members of the team are getting experience in every fight, and it's not like we have to worry about gaining other members to fill in any tactical holes in our team composition. There is a bare minimum of muss, which means there's a bare minimum of fuss. Or is it the other way around? I suppose it doesn't really matter that much.